Hi everyone, welcome to the second installment of Wire Wednesday. I'm Annika, I work for Learnivore as an intern, and this week we're going to be learning how to make a tree out of wire. If you were with us last week, we learned how to make a super cute little bunny guy out of steel wire, and that video is actually still up on the Learnivore DC page if you want to check it out. And as always, you can ask me anything. Feel free to write a comment and I'll answer your questions. So today, I'm going to be using aluminum wire. It's a lot easier to bend than steel wire, which is great, less of a workout for me. And in addition, I will be using a rock. You can just pick out any rock. And I picked this one because it's kind of pretty and is about the right size to anchor my tree on top of. So then, in addition, I'll be using my pliers. Feel free to use scissors instead if you don't have them, because aluminum wire cuts super easily, and then you can just use your fingers to bend them instead of pliers if you want to build up grip strength. And then lastly, I will be using a pencil. I highly recommend using a round pencil rather than a hexagonal pencil, just because it's easier to slip wire off once you've coiled it around it. If you do only have the hexagonal pencil, that's fine, just wrap a little looser so you can get that pencil out at the end. Okay, so here we go. The first thing we want to do is cut lengths of wire. Sorry, my dog's at the door. I'm gonna go let him in so that he doesn't feel alone. Okay. Casey here is my artistic assistant. All right, so I'm going to be cutting lengths of wire about 18 inches, just because kind of sized out in my head. I think that would be a good length. I want to err on the side of longer rather than shorter. So once I have, a reasonable length of wire, cut it with my pliers. And so now what you're going to do is, so the base you want to have a reasonable length, because this will be the roots which will anchor your tree to the rock and stop it from falling over. Then you're going to have the trunk, and this will be coiled, so you want more length than you would originally think. And then the last bit is going to be the branches, and the longer this is, the more freedom you have to shape your tree in the end. So I'm not really doing a specific kind of tree. If you want to, that'd be super cool, and I'd love to see your final results. Feel free to share them on the Learnivore DC page. But I'm kind of thinking bonsai tree, super abstract. Okay, so now I'm going to cut about, 10 or so of these. And I'm really just eyeballing the length, because it doesn't really matter. They don't all have to be the same length, because they won't end up being the same length in the end anyways, as you cut your branches to make them different fun shapes. Right. Let's see, 5, halfway there. I'm totally lost track at this point, so I'm just going to do like 3 more. Because you're probably going to want more than 10 in the end anyways. Think like 2 or 3 per branch, and obviously you want a tree with more than 3 branches, ideally. Okay, so now I have all of these wires. And now I'm going to start with the trunk. So leaving bit of room for roots, I'm just going to start wrapping around, and I want to keep the roots on the bottom here. And even though this is a round pencil, I still want to make sure I'm wrapping loose enough that I can slide this up and down the pencil, because that'll make it a lot easier to get the pencil out at the end. If you can't get the pencil out at the end, that's fine. Just cut it and leave it in there, and your tree will be stronger for it anyways. But if you want your pencil back, wrap loosely. So right now, I'm just kind of doing the bottom part of the trunk, because I want it to be a little bit fatter than the rest of it. So I'm just building up a little bit. So this isn't really going to be that pretty, since it won't be seen from the outside anyways. So now I have a little bit more thickness than the rest of the tree. I can start adding everything else. So for the other parts of the trunk, I'm actually going to start up here so I can build down onto this flat part. And I'm going to start with leave a lot of room at the top for additional trunk and then branch space. And I'm going to start with about 5 pieces of wire on this trunk and just kind of give them like a half wrap to hold them on there as I add more pieces. So my goal here to make it pretty is I kind of want them all to be in line here so that they're not crossing each other, and this will just be kind of prettier in the end. Crossing each other can look cool. If you're going for like a gnarled tree look, you really can't mess this up. Okay, so just gonna keep adding wire, wrapping them in succession, leaving enough room at the top for branches and at the bottom for roots. And you'll sort of start to get something that looks like this. Okay. So you want to keep them kind of tightly packed if you can. Just so you have, a solid looking tree. That being said, hollow spaces look neat. You can put little critters in there and stuff. All right, so now I'm gonna actually add a couple more, one or two more around here. Watch your face. Keeping them nice and tight to each other. And this does take a lot of muscling, which is why be grateful that you're using aluminum wire and nothing more difficult than that. Okay, so now I think I have a good amount to work with. Now I'm gonna add one. Why not? Okay. So one more wire, bring it around and down. Okay, snuck it in there. All right, and just kind of twist them a little tighter to keep them close to each other so that there aren't that many gaps. You can see that. Okay, now we're gonna keep winding down. Just kind of start with the wire that's closest to the ones that are already wrapped. So I'm gonna start with this wire, and I'm just gonna kind of get these other ones out of here and just wrap it about a 3/4 turn around. Take the next one, wrap that, next one, so on and so forth. And then eventually you're gonna get to where you already have thickness. Just act like that's more pencil, and wrap on top of it. Trying to keep this pattern, which might get harder as you have bumps underneath it, but just kind of guide it along as best you can. Okay, see how that's working. So this one. So now I've wrapped each of them that many times around. I'm going to start again. Just keep wrapping. It's kind of mindless work almost. Doesn't take any artistic ability at all. Just finger strength and, perseverance. So yeah, so you're noticing how this part of the trunk is getting thicker, which is good. Okay. Just keep going. All right, back to the bottom again. Bring that top piece around. So my tree's getting a little gnarly here, but that's okay. It's getting close to the base, so I'm not worried at all. Okay, so now we kind of have a widening trunk, which is cool. And at this point, kind of gonna wrap the top bits around a little bit more, just so that I have a pattern that I can follow without the guide of the pencil. And I'm gonna try and slide this pencil out. All right, luckily I didn't wrap it too tight. So now here, just kind of spread these out. These will be your roots. You can attach it to the rock. I'm actually gonna do that now, just because it's good to have a weighted base that you can use as support. So I'm kind of thinking how a lot of roots kind of start thick and then get thinner. So I'm grouping some of the wires together so that they're thicker at the top, and then I can taper those off by just cutting one of the two wires. And let's see if I can give you guys a better view. Okay, so now I really want to use the shape of the rock because it's cool when you get branches or roots like wrapping around the thing that the tree is growing on. So I'll show you this side in a second. So I just kind of wrapped that around the natural curves of the rock, and it looks like how an actual tree would grow. And you want to make it look like your tree is sitting as flat as possible on the rock, so there's no gaps underneath it. So I'm going to try and fill in some of the gaps since this rock isn't super flat on top, just by wrapping some of the extra wires around and kind of underneath here. And then using those as well to make this little guy cling to the rock. One key thing is you want to have at least one root on either side that goes all the way down to the bottom of the rock. Unless your rock has a lot of nubs sticking out, because this will help it grip the rock better. And really just kind of use the hardness of the rock to shape this. So I'm basically just pushing the wire against the rock to let it bend. And maybe this root will split somewhere. And this one can loop underneath. Okay, and I can trim these at the end again, so that they aren't sticking out weird or are ridiculously long or anything. So now I can pick up the rock with the tree, which is a good sign. That's kind of where you want to get it, and that'll ensure that your tree is as sturdy as it needs to be. This one's a little long, so just gonna trim that. And then once you get the final one down, I think that's pretty good for now. You just want to keep pressing your tree down into the rock. Make sure it has the strength to hold it up. And once it does, you should be good. I'm just going to grab this side. Okay, so there we go. Excellent. All right, so now, let's see, we have seven branches to work with, which is really not ideal. So what I'm gonna do is take these extra wires that I have that I haven't used yet. Maybe these are just scrap ones from other projects. They're a little more gnarly. And just kind of twist them loosely together at the bottom here. Trim off these extra ends so it's got kind of like a streamlined base. Use the pliers to get an even more streamlined base and just kind of pinch them in together. Okay. So that's a little wide. And now, if you can, try and feed them through your trunk. Ooh, my trunk might be a little narrow, so I'm just gonna ditch one of these. And basically you can keep ditching them until you can fit them all in. But you want to make sure they fit pretty snugly, because that'll give your tree more support. Okay, nice and tight together. Just feed them through as far as they want to go. Honestly, that's perfect. Okay, so now comes the kind of fun creative part. So now that you have your tree like so, you can start to bend it and shape it how you want your tree to go. These wires might, the ones you stuck down the middle might be a little rowdy at first. One good way to strengthen them is to just build up a little bit more trunk by using them as your new stencil and wrapping these pieces around. So now I think it might be time for my first branch. And since I have my tree going this way, I want my first branch to go this way. That'll help give it stability, and also it'll look visually balanced, which is just a nice thing to have. So I'm just gonna pick a couple of these wires and send them out this way. I'm gonna wrap probably one of the middle wires around it, just to give it some thickness and strength. and try and coil it tightly if you can. And then you can kind of loosen it up a little as you get further away from the trunk itself. And then maybe this one will come off as its own little gnarled branch. And then these two, can twist them a little bit, and maybe they split up here. And again, you want to kind of err on the long side. Then you can go back and prune your tree however you want. So and you want to think in 3D, which is one of the best parts about wires. You're using, you know, one-dimensional lines, but you can get into a 3D space. So I have these 3 branches going pretty wide. I have one going higher than the others. I might have this one drop down a little bit lower even. And that just gives it a cool sense of like, you know, how a real tree looks. Okay, so then I might wind the rest of these up higher. Get another bit of trunk going here. So you just have that one branch kind of sticking out. And now I might have a middle. You typically want to take at least one middle branch out each time you pull out a branch, because you want the trunk to be getting thinner as you move up. And this is the way to do that. So now I might take these two, twist them a little, kind of bend them back maybe. Have this one come out. And there's a lot of different ways you can make branch texture. One way, for example, this one looks kind of interestingly textured. That's because it was wrapped around a pencil previously, and then I tried to straighten it with my hands. So that's one way to do it. You can also just bend it with your own fingers. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little higher, and then I think we're gonna split everything that's left into the remaining branches. As you can see, I still have a lot of wire to play with, so I can really make this tree a lot bigger. And if you're thinking about using this as a jewelry stand, for instance, it can be useful to, let's see, if you have a chain or some, you know, whatever, your chains lying around, you can test, see if it would hit the ground. So this would hit whatever desk or surface it's on. So if I want to be able to hang my necklace, I might want a branch that comes out a little higher. So again, I'm gonna have one branch go this way. I'm gonna split off one branch this direction and have that kind of come back around. And then I'm gonna have this one continue to go up. And this one is going to go off in a separate direction. Okay, so I've kind of just like sketched it out really briefly, and now I can go in and actually like finesse these branches. And again, this is pretty basic. Again, food for thought if you want to hang a necklace or something. So now I know that would work without touching the ground. If I want to hang a necklace or something, I don't want to have my branch sloping down. I want to have it sloping up so that it'll stay put. If you have a heavier necklace, maybe you want to use more than one. Piece of wire to make that branch. Okay. So as I'm finishing here, one cool thing that you can do, so I have like little pieces of green wire. I could actually entwine those in these branches. I won't do that now because this video is already pretty long. Entwine them in the branches and have leaves or anything coming off. It's really easy to make a leaf with, any kind of wire. You basically just make a little point, pull it apart, and then somewhere down the line, twist so that you have a little loop, and then you can shape that to be any type of leaf you want. Okay. So now, and aluminum wire is not very sharp, so these points aren't particularly dangerous, but it is kind of a nice touch if you go in and just bend all the points over like so. You may remember we did this with the bunny last week, and it just, it helps not hurt yourself, which is always good. Okay, so now that I have this tree, I might actually go back in and cut these shorter carefully and bend over all the corners. Let's see if we can get a good sense of what this thing actually looks like. I'll post a picture of the final product, but yeah, basically here you go. You have your tree that you can hang whatever you want on it or just have sit there, and it'll sit flat with the nice rock to weigh it down. So yeah, comment what you think, and more importantly, comment what you want me to make next week. So we've already seen these little creatures like the bunny, and we made this elephant in the past. Some more wild ideas. You can make jewelry really easily out of wire. That looks kind of pretty. You can make flowers. Let's see. Flowers, abstract skulls, although this takes a lot more time. Same with, let's see, this little guy back here, that takes a lot of time. Or bird skulls. I think I just like doing skeleton stuff with wire. So yeah, comment what you want to see next week, and I'll see what I can get you guys. All right, thanks for watching. As always, feel free to check out Learnivore if you want to learn more hands-on, in person, how to do some really cool art projects. All right, thank you.